Hello creators, I'm Dano, and in this video, I'm gonna turn this Gundam kit into a rampaging rodent robot. I'm gonna start this project by just following the instructions that come in the box. But then I'm gonna draw out a bunch of changes that I wanna make in my KITBASH in a little bit of a technical drawing. After that, I'm gonna Frankenstein his ass with a bunch of spare model parts from other kits, and once that's done, I'm gonna give him a rip-roaring new paint job, including a few comments from the comments section. Let's get her done. I bought this kit at Target. It's what's known as an entry-grade kit, which, for those who don't already know, means it's supposed to be easy to put together. More importantly, though, it's cheap. This bad boy is only 13 bucks, which is totally super reasonable compared to the frickin' Unicorn Gundam, which is like $800 and something. It's just ridiculous. Now, to begin this project, I'm gonna need to collect a few tools together in the form of a hobby knife, brain fuel, nippers, bananas, and super glue. Oh, well, actually not super glue because it says no glue necessary. So that's sweet. The parts come in what are called sprues. The term sprue originates from the medieval Latin spruticus, which loosely translates to all the bits of plastic that you purchased and then immediately discarded to the corner of your closet even though you spent so much money on them, you sick bastard. See related terms in pile of shame. Now, I have to say, these kits are pretty darn cool. The parts are already molded in the correct color plastic, so if you're not a painter, you don't have to paint them. Also, they snap together, hence no need for super glue. And at the end, you get a pretty cool little action figure dude. He's not like as durable as like a G.I. Joe or something, but you could totally play with him or just pose him peeking around your computer monitor or something. Full disclosure, this is not my first ever Gunpla kit, but it is my first kit in a really, really long time. When I was a kid, I kind of had an obscenely large collection of them, but they've all been lost to time. I kinda like to imagine that maybe they all ended up at Gort's house, that little dude from Halloween Town, the Disney Channel original movie, and like anything that anybody lost anywhere would just get magically transported to his house. So he just had mountains of socks and coins and TV remotes and probably my phone charger. That's where my Gundams now live, I'm sure of it. I think the only one that I'm actually sad about having lost, though, is from Gundam Wing, which I watched religiously on Toonami after school, and that was of Death Scythe, who's easily the coolest Gundam ever made. Instead of Death Scythe, though, I picked this guy for my project because I wanted some flat spaces to work with, some prime canvas for freehanding when we get to the paint phase. So I've just finished building the Gundam kit, and it looks great. I'm stoked. It was only an entry-level kit, which meant there was only a few parts, honestly like fewer than 30 parts. But it was also in Japanese, which made it a little more complicated for me. But it's all done now. I'm really excited to now develop an idea for what I want the final product to look like. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna switch over to my sketchbook. I'm gonna do some doodles while looking at this little dude, and then I'm just gonna see if I can find something that really sort of jims my jams. The first thing that I like to do when I'm developing ideas for a project like this is I like to familiarize myself with the subject matter. So I'm going to start by just drawing the Gundam as it already is, and I'm gonna do it in pink because it's more interesting, and if you don't like it, you can suck my c***. You should let me know in the comments. I'll do these line studies often. Especially, for example, when I'm doing a Draw the Comments whiteboard and somebody wants to see Mr. Krabs mixed with Jafar, I'll first draw them each separately just so that I know what I have to work with. This, though, is an exercise in kit bashing, and my options are limited to the bits that I have available in my bits bin, which is the huge box that you saw just a second ago. Bits are unused pieces of other model kits and are also the primary ingredient of a kit bashing project like this. I spent some time combing through and I set aside the top candidates for the project. These are just the pieces that I thought were cool and they kind of fit the vibe. I will definitely be sculpting from scratch also, but clay really prefers organic shapes. Robots are tough. Not to mention, working in this scale, this guy's gonna be like 5 inches tall when he's done, and I'm basically gonna have to be doing microsurgery to pull off the plans I already have, so I'm gonna go ahead and push this through and not overcomplicate it if I don't have to. I do, though, plan to sculpt just one feature of this, and I'm so excited about it. You see, the Gundam's head will be removed and replaced by its true pilot, a tiny, adorable, and visibly unhinged gerbil. For this isn't just a custom mobile suit, this is a towering testament to vengeance. A colossal war machine piloted by a gerbil whose small stature belies an all-consuming thirst for power.
Okay, I think I finished the planning phase, and I know exactly what I'm gonna do next. I went through my bits bin, I found some really cool pieces that I really wanna use. I found this big old buzz saw that's gonna be in one of his hands. His other hand, I think, is gonna be this really huge minigun it's actually a tiny minigun. And I found some other cool junk. But the real fun starts now as I start to chop this guy to pieces, because then I get to start sculpting the gerbil. So I'm gonna pop off his head, and there's just gonna be this little maniacal gerbil that's sitting where his head belongs, and it's gonna be really cool and really fun. So let's go ahead and give it a go. Also, this technical drawing is gonna be up for grabs. You could win it, and all you gotta do is like the video and also comment what you think the gerbil's name should be. When this video reaches 1,000 comments, we're gonna pick someone at random. If you live in the US, we'll send it to you. If you're outside the US, we'll still send it to you, but we're gonna make you pay for shipping. This could be yours. It could be all yours. Anyway, let's go ahead and get going.
Let's the kit bashing commence!
All right, watch out, projectile bits.
Holy f***. Wait, you can get safety glasses, bro. Oh.
Nope, we're good.
Once the bits had been trimmed of unwanted elements, I cut back the hands to stumps, and then I joined them with the most powerful tool in a kit basher's toolkit: green stuff. All I had to do was just sort of smush it onto the contact point, squanch the pieces together, and then splurf them flat with a little thingamajig. Minigun hand complete. Bob's your uncle.
Thank you.
Show the PPE to the camera. Alright, Dave. I missed my third song.
Because it's urgent.
Once I had both hands on there, I felt like I could start to see what he was to become, and I started getting super amped. I could just see him stomping on the village and burninating the countryside. After that, I replaced his super iconic shoulder pads, and I just really liked the way it was looking, and I realized it was because I was kind of pulling him away from his original Gundam identity. So, in pursuit of a sort of similar effect, I jammed a whole bunch of green stuff into his booby holes. This also provided me with the necessary real estate to mount his extremely epic nipple tassels. Just trimmed a little bit off the back of them, made some little green stuff nippy nips, and then smished them into place. I also got rid of the knee pads because I felt like they were kind of a dead giveaway that this is a Gundam, and I found him the most perfect cod piece I could have ever hoped for. I'm so excited.
All right, he's looking pretty good. Kind of got the kit bash going, and I'm using a lot of epoxy putty, and epoxy putty needs some time to cure. It's just too delicate to like touch and move him around. So the last thing I really want to do tonight is I want to get some super glue, and I'm gonna sort of oil can it into his joints, and that way I can lock down his pose. And then after that, I'm just gonna go play some card games with my homies. So let's do that.
And now that we have made sleepies, we will proceed by adding the tubes. This is the part of the project that started getting real fiddly. All little tubies had tiny little points of contact, so I started using this glue accelerant spray. It worked like a friggin' charm, and it also smelled a lot like Icy Hot, which totally gave me flashbacks to throwing discus in college. This is also the stage where I got to start sculpting the aforementioned gerbil. It took a lot of sizing and resizing to make sure that he was exactly the scale I wanted. I think I probably sculpted him 4 or 5 times before I really got it just right. And it was also the time when I needed to make sure to conform his little booty cheeks to the contours of the cockpit. Once I knew his caboose was exactly the right shape, I baked him so that I wouldn't disturb his perfect little glutes. Then I started adding the kidney bean that was his little torso. In this project, and generally speaking, just most of the time, I prefer using a polymer clay that's called Super Sculpey. I absolutely love this stuff because it sets really, really hard. You can bake it in multiple passes so you can sort of save your work, and it comes in this really appealing flesh tone that makes every work in progress look like a dick. Crafting his face was delicate, but once I got to his nose, that's when it really felt like it was out of control. I don't know if you can tell, but that little piece of clay is way smaller than a grain of rice. For realsies though, I had to use downright surgical level precision to get this done. Now I could really start to see him coming together. I was getting stoked. Next, I put tiny ears on him with my FizzBod tool. Then I turned it around and used the pointy end to poke his brain through his ear holes. Voila! I thought that I'd passed the worst of it until it dawned on me that as a rodent, he needed buck teeth. Whew! TBH, I don't know how I pulled that off, but it worked. I then slapped on his upsettingly bulgy eyes and found myself thinking that he looked just like a real-sized newborn panda bear. After I crafted him the world's tiniest joystick, he was finally ready for some paint.
All right, the build is all done. I put all the parts on it, and I finished sculpting our little maniacal gerbil here. I'm keeping them separate because it'll make it way easier to paint. So now we're gonna take them all out into the garage, and we're gonna prime them and get ready for the paint job.
There's a stick up his butt.
There is a stick up his butt. I'm so excited to just paint him up and plop his little bottom into place.
This thing looks like Megatron fucked like a Greek demon.
I gave him what is called a zenithal highlight, which is, I guess, supposed to simulate the sun at its zenith? That, along with an all-over dry brushing of white, should set the stage nicely for his translucent base coat. I've decided that I'm going to use a wet blend of phthalo blue and dioxazine purple, both of which are Golden Brand high-flow acrylics. They're intended for airbrush use, but I find them really convenient because they're beautiful in saturation and they stay wet a lot longer. You can also get a similar effect with any acrylic paint though by just adding airbrush medium to it. Some wild berry Pop-Tarts. A wet blend is about mixing colors on the canvas before they cure. It's mostly a pushing and pulling game. You'll be doing a lot of wiping off your brush to swap colors. You'll kind of go back and forth a lot, and you'll have to disturb the surface such that the blend looks even and doesn't show a whole bunch of brush strokes. I will stop myself here though because, alas, this is not an educational video. Suffice it to say, wet blending is without a doubt. After I'd finally base coated the whole thing, I gave the bot a little spray of varnish so that I wouldn't rub paint off while handling it in my handses, and while it dried, I threw a base coat on the little gerb. Once the varnish had cured, I went ahead and I globbed on a whole bunch of a shading wash, which is really supposed to help all the little giblets stand out. This stuff is amazing, so much so that some have called it liquid talent. I don't know about that personally, but I went ahead and I blasted it all over everything that was silver. After that, I mixed up some green by using a combination of yet more of the golden high flow paint, but also a little bit of super pigment dense acrylic wash. This way I can really be careful about making sure I have the right consistency, opacity, and texture, you know? I returned to using blue again for some edge highlights, but also so that I could paint some comments from the comments section. I started with one commenter who really earned their spot. This request was made on 12 videos at this point, so I will paint a number 7 on the robot's chest just for you, Bleep Plop. 7. And on the shoulder, a character from a very popular anime that I've never seen even once. Moawi Otto said, "This Luffy is for you." He looks just a little weird. I'm not sure what I messed up, but it definitely looks like he's wearing a pith hat. Now down here on his right calf, I just love this idea so much. I feel a little bit like it might be my Patronus. But anyway, Miss Molly requested a Minotaur mermaid, so I couldn't say no to that. On his right shoulder pad, I realize now that I only painted half the comment because I'm a doofus, but for Baker Bob 83, I painted Nyan Cat, and for Vitamin Ink, I made a flower with a rainbow. For full reveals of those two comments, you're first gonna have to endure this very compelling montage of final details. For those who are still here, thank you so much for sticking through to the end. You truly are the homies. Making project videos like this takes an ungodly amount of work. It's honestly difficult to even explain. If you enjoyed this, or even if you just want to support me as an artist, please hit that like and subscribe button. It really makes all the difference. Don't forget to help me name the gerbil for a chance to win the technical drawing, and if you have an idea that you'd like to see on a whiteboard or on a project, throw it in the comments. I have a whole coloring book full of them now. And if you're interested in one, check out the link in my bio. It's there along with some other pretty cool stuff too. Anyway, dudes, thank you so much for sticking through. Thank you for being such legends, and I hope you all had a really happy new year.